As Christy said, tomorrow is the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. That terrible day when terrorists attacked and killed 2,976 innocent individuals in the Twin Trade Towers of New York City, the Pentagon of Washington, D.C., and in an ordinary, common field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I think, for me, the unique piece of all of that is that it unfolded right before our eyes. You could say that we were there. We were involved because we watched it unfold. And it may have been, I don't know, but it may have been that was the intent of those who attacked us, not only to take lives, but perhaps to impact us and to separate us from our own collective spirits, you might say, to separate us from the good which defines our country and our way of life. And I believe that when our children and our children's children read this chapter of our country's history, they will find something very different. They will find that we were not separated from our faith in a redeeming God. They were not successful in taking us away from our core values of love, peace, faith, forgiveness, and grace. That actually what took place on that day was just the opposite. We did not turn away from God, but we turned towards God. And as we read those accounts, what we have read, as Christy said, is we find a tremendous number of acts of heroism, acts of kindness, generosity, and love. Instead of separating us from our faith and our ways of life, we more embraced that. Because we knew, let me repeat that, because we knew that that was the only way to live. We did not abandon our faith in Him in whom we believe, nor did we abandon that rock upon which our lives are built. Had we done that, we would have been in danger of losing all that was important to us. But we had not forgotten the warning of the psalmist that it is better to trust in the Lord than it is to put our confidence in man. We embraced our faith instead of turning away from all that was important to us. I've often thought about the Israelites and the attacks upon their people, their homeland, their way of life. Whether it was the Assyrians, whether it was the Babylonians, they were attacked, and everything that was important to them, down to the bricks on their homes, were laid waste. And they were taken into exile, and they were forced to be slaves. Their understanding of these events were usually that God was behind all this. God was the one that was bringing about these attacks to correct them for having lost sight of their covenant. I don't happen to believe that that's what happened on 9/11. I don't think that God was trying to correct us. What I believe is that there are bad people in this world who do bad things. But the more critical issue, that one issue I wanted to bring to us today is this, that we need to understand where our foundation is and how we take measurement of what is important in our lives. Byron said, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in man." As some of you know, I was up in Alaska. Karen and I had taken a trip up there to see what was so important to Joni and Dave that they moved up there. It started reminding me of some of the other trips I had taken. And one trip that I took, I hope that maybe some of you have been there. It's called the Great River Road. Has anybody ever taken that trip? I wonder. It's the road that goes up the Mississippi. I took that one time where I started in a town called Galena. Galena is a very interesting town because it was the home of no less than 9 Civil War generals on both sides. This is a little town. But out of this little town came 9 generals of both the North and the South. I started in Galena and I went up through various towns and the locks and the river all the way to the headwaters of the Mississippi River. Anybody know where that's at? You from Minnesota? Itasca, Minnesota is where the Mississippi River begins, and it flows down all the way down to New Orleans. Well, I learned about the river, and I learned about its importance to a particular man named Samuel Clemens. And I learned how important that he was to the river and the river was to him. As you know, Samuel Clemens was a riverboat captain who later began to write under the name of Mark Twain. When he was on the riverboat, the waters would get rather shallow at times because of the shifting sands. And so they always had to take measurements. I think I did pretty well putting this together. These are supposed to be fathoms. Anybody know how long a fathom is? 6 feet. So I'm cheating a little. But I wanted to give you a sense of it, that a fathom would be 6 feet. And so they had either a rod or a rope with markings on it, and they would constantly be testing the depth of the water. And they would put it down, and if it was 1 fathom deep, why, they knew it was 12 feet deep. If it was 3, they knew that they had, where's Byron? They had 18 feet deep, right? And if they had 4 fathoms, why, that would be 24 feet. So they constantly were taking a measurement. Well, the person taking the measurements would call out to the riverboat captain, and he would yell it out this way. Mark Quad, 4 fathoms. Mark Trey, 3 fathoms. And when he got to 2 fathoms, which was the measurement that allowed for safe travel, he would say, Mark Twain. Mark Twain, did you know that? That's how he got his name. It meant that the river was safe for travel. Mark Quad, Mark Trey, Mark Twain. That's how they took their measurements. That's how they knew that they knew that the river was safe for travel. And that may just be the important thing for us today. I guess I came with a question. How do you take your measurements in life? What is it that gives you the standard for making important decisions along the way, like how you might respond to something somebody did to do you harm? Or what if you were struggling with some temptation? How do you go about wrestling with that? What measurements do you use? Mr. Byron suggested something from the psalmist today. He said, it's better to trust in the Lord than it is to put your confidence in man. Well, I think that's not too bad. Psalmists might think that some things I say aren't too bad too. But I liked that. But I have one final piece I want to share with you this morning. I've looked at this for years and years and years, and I think that this might just be of God. I don't know. You let me know what you think. It is a piece that you're familiar with, and I think that you'll like it because I think it gives good guidance. I think it gives very good guidance to living. And if I look at these things, I say, I can find these things throughout Scripture everywhere I look. See what you think. It's entitled, All I Really Need to Know, I Learned in Kindergarten. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sand pile of Sunday school. These are the things that I learned. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt someone. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work. Every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. Watch out for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, they all die. And so will we. Remember that Dick and Jane book and the first word that you ever learned. The biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation. Take any one of those items and extrapolate it into a sophisticated adult term and apply it to your family life, your work, your government, your world, and it holds true and clear and firm. Just think what a better world it would be, the whole world, if we and the whole world had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon and then lay down with our blankies for a nap. think of it. Or if all governments had as a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and to clean up their own mess. And it is still true that no matter how old you are, that when you go out into the world, it's best to hold hands and stick together. Isn't it better to trust in the Lord than to put our confidence in man? May God bless you. And may God bless United Church of Marco Island.